So, hello and welcome to a new episode of our weekly Spielworxx chat, season 2. As you know, I was slacking for a full week, so I was gone hiking in pretty good weather. Just the last 2 or 3 days weren't that bad, weren't that good. So, my name, of course, is Udi Blennemann, but I'm having the wonderful Claude Sirois as my guest today. We will talk about Spielworxx' next release, which is the Smoky Valley. So, Claude, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you very much, Uli, for the invitation. That's an honor to be invited to the chat. So
So, so,
that's great to be here today.
so, Claude, you have to say to the famous Spielworxx chat, but this would be
Yes.
way too much. No, actually, Claude, you have to do all the work today. So I'm glad that you are really here and that you're fine, of course. And for you watching this, if you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat window and we will answer. So to start, Claude, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I live in Quebec City, so
Mhm.
it's in Canada. It's in the province of Quebec. So province of Quebec is the only French province in the country. So we are about 7-8 million people, surrounded by 300 million people in North America. But that's fine. We are proud of that. So, like I said, I live in Quebec City. I was born in Rimouski, which is a small town by the St. Lawrence River, northeast of Quebec. And I'm at about, I would say, 250 kilometers from Griffintown, which is close to Montreal. We'll talk about the game soon. So, and as a work I do, I work for the Quebec Ministry of Transportation.
Mhm.
So during 10 years, I worked in transportation planning, especially for freight transport. So I
Mhm.
guess it explains why I like those
Mhm.
games about transport, about industrial development. So
So,
I guess it's not far from what I'm doing in the life.
yeah, but this is actually interesting because quite a few people they do their job and then they want to do something that is completely detached from that. But you like it so much that you move it over to gaming as well, Claude. Interesting. And of
Yeah.
course, you are a hockey fan, which isn't that surprising living in
Hmm.
that part of Canada, which is of course wonderful. So yeah. And
Yeah, and I still play hockey, and of course I follow the Roosters from far, but I follow them.
yeah, so the resident Quebec rooster, so wonderful, Claude. And we have Nick Case here in the chat. So hello, Nick. He's saying the taxi driver is in the house. Yeah, normally you are having taxi duty at this time. So great seeing you. There's designer Matt Wolf, and he is already having a question. How many times per week do you have poutine? 7, 8? So how many times? And what is
uh,
poutine?
Not too many times because it's very hard. You will take weight if you eat too much of that. So just a few times during a year, not too much. But that's good. That's fries, gravy, and cheese, and all mixed together. That's very typical of Quebec. Not from Canada, but for Quebec. But it's just you have to find the right moment to to eat that.
So less than 7 or 8 times a week. Sounds good.
Less than seven, yeah, definitely.
And Matt is saying, Uli, you need to have poutine. It's amazing. So maybe, probably, I need to write this down to check it out. So I'll see if I find a recipe for this. And to start, Claude, when did you start gaming?
Well, for of course a long time, I was a teenager. We always play games at home with my brother. We of course it was like Monopoly and Risk and all those games. And I also played Dungeon and Dragons in the 80s with
Mhm.
some of my friends. And then I had a couple of I just stopped playing for a while because I was studying and doing other things. I have a few episodes in the 90s and beginning of 2000s. But I would say that it's around 2009 and 10 that I just started to see all those new games coming to the market, and I discovered them, and I said, oh, there's a lot of things to see, and I just go on and BGG, look at the games, and I bought too many games during a few years, and then I started playing more frequently at this moment. So I discovered, for example, Power Grid, Age of Industry, so games that I like, and I just kept playing until now, regularly with friends and with the family too.
Yeah, so is gaming like in Germany? Is it a family tradition in Quebec when you are kids, or is it, or does it depend?
I think it depends. It becomes more and more people play with their family. Not sure it's everyone, so but more and more we can see people, and we play with the family. We play with other families too, so we uh, you know uh, take those people and they play with us. So we have more and more people about that. Yes.
Which is of course good. And developer Henning, he will be very happy to hear that you are mentioning Power Grid as one of your favorite games, which is an amazing game by 2F
Mhm.
Spiele, of course. But Claude, what are your favorite games or gaming genres? Transportation games, of course, but anything else?
Yeah, in general, I'm a Euro gamer. And I like, of course, transportation, industrial, economic. Like I name two, like industry, brass, and I like those game with a like a spatial element. I'm geographer, so I like when there's a map, when I have to solve the puzzle using a map, and I think I'm pretty good in those in those kind of games too. So other games that I played recently that I like a lot is On Mars from Vital Lacerda, which is very good. A very heavy game, but I like it a lot. So I like those economical or industrial heavy game, but I also like lighter games like with the family, for example. We played a lot the game Citadel by Bruno Ferducci is probably the favorite game of my daughter. So we played that game many times. Each time we play, she always wants to play Citadel, so that's cool. And we like, for example, we played the Pandemic Legacy games
Yeah.
the last year. So I would say that my range of gaming is quite broad. I like many games, but with the friend, it's more the heavier games and maybe lighter game with the family. But in the last year, I introduced the family to Power Grid, and they liked it. So that's good. I'm beginning to slowly bringing them to play heavier games.
Which is actually very good. And you see, and I see that you like different genres, and this also shows in your first game, which for Spielworxx, which was the Grand Trunk Journey. Of course, yes,
Mhm.
it's a transportation game, but it's a nice and, in my opinion, a very innovative look at the pick up and deliver mechanism, then handled via deck building, and of course, which was very nice, or which is very nice, is just in time delivery scoring mechanism. And so I think a very, very good game. But the Smoky Valley, this game is different, although it is in the same series, a Griffintown series. It's a completely different game mechanically by topic. So first, which topic is the Smoky Valley? What does it show?
Well, actually, in the Grand Trunk Journey, we Griffintown, which is the focus of the second game, was one of the city of the old Grand Trunk Railway network. So with this game, we just dive into the development of the city itself, the economic and industrial development of the city, and of course, we have in some elements that we have kind of presence of rail transport and marine transport. So we have those elements, but the game is, as you said, Uli, you're right. It is really different, and I've been told once by somebody who said, "Well, I I couldn't imagine that the same designer and
Mm-hmm.
that designed both games, and I was glad to hear that. I'm not I'm not doing the same game again and again. So that's different. And in this game, you play like an investor that you try to develop the city, build your industry, produce resources, and with those resources, you can develop other industries, some services, and ship those goods abroad. And there's also the presence of the Lachine Canal, which
Mm-hmm.
is the start of the game because the canal was used to. There was a rapids on the St. Lawrence River, and with the canal, the ship could go from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Oceans, and there was a lot of goods like the coal, wood, and grain, moving through the canal. And since there was an interesting, there was a lot of those resources. Industries developed in Griffintown using those resources, and a complete economic system developed around that. So
Mm-hmm.
it became a very important industrial area in Canada during the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that this game, contrary to Grand Trunk Journey, is a lot less randomness.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess players will have more control
Mm-hmm.
on their game. There's a mix of city building, resource management. There's an action point system, maybe a little bit of end management. Um, but what is funny about the difference between both games is that even if there is more randomness in Grand Run, I feel as I'm a lot better player playing Grand Run because most of the time I win at Grand Run Journey. I know the game, the cards very well, the interaction between the cards. So most of the time I win. I'm difficult to beat, but in Smoky Valley you have to determine what is your best, and strategy is not that definite. I mean, you have to do a little bit of everything, but you have to balance.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to develop more the city, more the industrial component, more on shipping, and depending on what the other player will do, you have to adapt to that. So I guess that there is less randomness in Smoky Valley, but I'm not uh, as good player as in Grand Trunk Journey.
Yeah, well, Claude, it was always sufficient to beat me. So I always hope when we were playing that you, as a designer, would let me win at least once. Never happened. So yeah. But Claude, if you would describe the Smoky Valley in one sentence, how would you term it?
It's not that easy. It's quite complex game with many components. And when I look at the rules, I have a sentence which looks like stimulate economic and industrial development of Griffintown to be remembered as the greatest builder of the Smoky Valley. So that's something like that. I would say.
Yeah, okay. And Stefan Risthaus is here, designer Stefan Risthaus. Hello, Stefan. He's asking when will the rule book be available? Sounds great, the game. Yeah. Stefan, this is a question I need to answer. Actually, yesterday and today, I worked through the English language rules booklet and it needs a couple of passes, so as soon as possible. But the rules are in layout, looks great, including a glossary, which is actually of tiles of all the cards in the game, which is actually, I think, 6 pages. So, but every single item is there explained, and you'll see it soon. Stefan is saying it is not easy to let you win. I will try next time. Yeah, but because I'm such a poor player, you brute. and,
If I may, only just a second, just to say that if there are some francophone people, I don't know, but I already translated the rules in French as well, so they will be available on BGG once we have both the English and German rules, of course.
Yeah, and this is an important message, of course. So French rules will go to BGG, and we will have, when the game will be made available, German and English rules in the game box. And Nick is again saying his famous statement, Smoky Valley, surely no. And Ode is there. Hello, Ode. And he's saying, love your accent, Claude. And I had hoped, Ode, that you would say, love your accent, but it's just my bloody German accent, so which you probably do not like. So yeah, what can we do? But what I think is also important to mention before we go to the actual game is that the Smoky Valley is long in development. Really, it's not a game which you said, well, here's the game. 2 months of testing, and then we go to layout and printing and to graphics. So the game has gone through many iterations. So what were the different stages here, Claude?
Well, there was many versions of the game. I started working on the game. I was looking at my notes last night in 2014, so it's been a while. Of course, not full time on that. You know, you work on that a
Yeah.
couple of hours, few weeks, and then you put it aside for a while. But the biggest part of the development was between, you know, you remember early we met at a BGG con in 2019, and since then we did a lot of development in the last
Yeah.
year and a half. And what I did about the game is that most of the components that are there right now were there from the beginning. However, I just uh, designed them like in I designed the shipping element by itself, and then I designed the other one. So each component just evolves differently. So I have many versions of the game, and I think this one is I love it. It was really fun to play together in the last few months, and the fact that there was a pandemic, we it was more of course we couldn't
Yeah.
meet people, but we played a lot online
Yeah.
with Sel, with you, with Henning, and I think it has a positive impact on the development because we're able to play live a couple of times with the game in the last few months. Yes.
Yeah, I think because you were mentioning BGGCon 2019, and even at that time, we liked the game. It was in good shape. But from looking back at that version and looking at the current version, it's not a small step forward. It's several huge step forwards. So I'm really happy about the recent developments here. And Nick is making some comments on the various accents, and he's saying French accent elfish, like an elf. German accent orcish. Yeah, could be. An English accent rubbish. No, English is fine. And German orcish, like an orc. Yes, that's true. And Nick, I thought we won the war, but probably we didn't. But let's now move to some of the key mechanics. And Claude, please move us through some of the key mechanics now. And we will use, and Claude will do screen sharing here. We will use the vessel module of the game. And it's still the test graphics. So please consider it's not the final graphics, it's a test version graphics. Yes, there will be online modules for TTS, for Tabletopia, and for Vassal, but right now it's just the test module. So, Claude, please share.
Okay, so going to share the Vassal page. So you can tell me, Uli, if
Yes,
people
we are
see.
now seeing McCord and Anne on the upper part of the main board.
Okay. So to not bring too much confusion, because there are many screens with that. So I'm gonna go to the main element of the main board first. I'm gonna show you two player boards and then come back, and I think I will do the most of the elements. So uh, the final version will be organized differently. I have to say that because all the elements were on the main board. Now some are on different boards, but it doesn't matter for the explanation today. So what you see here first, you have 5 districts: McCord, Saint-Anne, Wellington, Les Bassins, and Saint-Gabriel on the left. So those in those district, people will build different industry, upgrade those industry. They will use them to produce good, and of course there are different kind of goods. You have a wood, you have you can see, for example, the wood depot. You have grain, you have here coal and iron. So you will use those goods to do different things. You can build or upgrade those industry. You can process good to, and I'm going to show you. I hope people can follow me. For example, for a flour in a flour mill, they can produce beer. They can produce machines. So of course, each of those goods are have different roles in the game, so you can use them differently.
Mm-hmm.
You can use them to improve your assets of your company, but also you can ship them abroad to foreign markets to do some points. Uh, just to mention, one of the element that I wanted to recreate in the game is, and I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, is the integrated economy of the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to avoid that one player say, okay, I'm going to develop all the industry, I have everything, and I can produce in my own industry. I wanted to ensure that you have part of the logistic chain, but you don't have everything. So you have to rely on the other player. You have to produce in their industries as well. So to have a kind of interaction between players. So for example, if I have the grain silos here, if I produce in my silos, I pay just one coin. I produce two grains. If I produce in green wood depot, well, green will get a bonus if I produce in his wood depot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the way we find to have a center interaction. So
Yes.
if you decide to build all industry of all types, you won't have enough money to ship them abroad to do
Mm-hmm.
something else. So you have to decide what you want to do. Um, but I will come back about the in a few minutes about how those five district, how we can do those action in those five district. Just to show you on the top here, services. There are four services that can be used to. Uh, you can build them in the different districts, so they will bring you different bonus. For example, here it's the hydraulic energy. So if you have this along the canal and you build an industry, you can produce for free right away. You have one production for free.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a rail transport with coal here, with it's in black. If
Mm-hmm.
you produce goods in a district and you have this service, you get a free coal. So those services are helpful for the people, for the person who build them, but they are available to all the industry in the
Mm-hmm.
district. Um, there's also here on the left the canal display, as you can see with the kind of blue tiles. It's a way to uh, players can develop the canal. They can pay, for example, a brick, and there are two eras. There's the widening of the canal at the beginning, and then you
Mm-hmm.
finish with the modernization of the canal. And you're going to use those styles to improve or do some extra action that will explain in a minute. So you have the three districts along the canal, Saint Gabriel, Les Bassins, and Wellington. So depending where you develop the canal, you will have access to certain ties. But I will show you, give you an example in a few minutes how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when you do all those things, you get different types of points, but I don't want to go into much in detail about that. Maybe an element at the top, I forgot to mention it first, is the game sequence. In color, you have the five development phase, so that's the core of the game. The other phases are quite are quick phases, just to admin phase is just to do some cleanup and get the income, for example. And you have those three here related to development of the city. I will just talk about that point at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have at the bottom the canal itself with ships going to 3 foreign markets. So the ships are in limited numbers. So if you want to export your goods, you can do it. And of course, there's a kind of race to have those spots on the canal because the number of ship is limited. So you can ship goods with those ships. You can also place traders, and traders are very interesting. You know, you have this symbol with the black, like the black here.
Hmm.
So when you traders allow you to have some bonus when you go in the foreign market, but also uh, the trader works for you, give you some points, and will help you import some goods. For example, if you send a trader to Great Britain, you increase your level of trade level of that foreign market, which means that every time you export flour, you get more points. And that trader, you can, for example, import a machine from Great Britain, which is great. You don't have to produce it in your industry, you import it, or you can get a coin in bonus. So that's a good way to do points. However, if you only do that, and I can tell you that Uli experienced it,
Yeah.
you cannot win if you only do that because you have to take care of the people of Griffintown as well. And Uli was a good shipping guy, but not
Yeah.
necessarily the best for the community of Griffintown.
Yeah, let me briefly step in here, Claude. Actually, I was going to try. Can I win the game just by shipping goods to foreign markets? Because if this would be possible, I think the game would have a small problem because with a single strategy, you can break the game or win the game, but it wasn't possible. You may make some prestige, which is victory points, but not enough. And you are very unpopular in Griffintown because you don't do anything for the development of the city itself. And popularity is also a kind of value in the game, a kind of currency in the game. And if you just ship goods out of the city, the people in the town not necessarily like you so much. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Back to you, Claude.
Yes, I will say a few words about the popularity in a second, but Uli used to be the most unpopular man in town each time we play. Um, I will just share you another screen if you give me a second. So I'm just gonna stop the sharing and start a new one, just to give you to talk to you a little bit about the action selection
Mhm.
mechanism. I guess you can see we can see only
Yes, we'll see
the
it.
action board. Okay, so this action, how it works is you have it will be ties, you know, in the game with the 5 district, and in each district you can do a certain number of actions. You have 6 or 7 actions for each district, and it's your ship, which is here at the top, that will decide in what district you will do your action. So before to do an action, you take your ship. You can move it downstream, so which costs 0 to do
Mhm.
that. If I'm at Saint Anne, I can perform an action. Each action costs money, so you spend 1 or 2 coins to do your action, and you're done. If you decide to move it upstream, in that case, you have to pay. So you have to decide each time at the beginning of the game. You say, okay, I'm going to start here at Maccord. You can do one action here, one here, one here, one here. Of course, to save as much money as you can to do your action, because each time you move upstream, you have to pay. So if you go everywhere, you will spend a lot of money just moving your ship, and you won't
Mhm.
have enough money to do your action. So that's some elements you have to think when you decide where you want to
Mhm.
perform your action in what order. But what can give you some flexibility, and I talked about the canal earlier,
Mhm.
you can add canal tiles here. They are in blue. So some canal tiles offer additional actions. So if I move my ship to Saint Anne, I can do an action in Saint Anne, and I can also upgrade an industry D, which means in any district. So that brings you a lot more flexibility because you
Mm-hmm.
can say, I'm I'm building in one of my turn an industry in Le Bassin. I move my ship to Saint-Anne. I do an action in Saint-Anne, and then I upgrade my industry that I just built in Le Bassin. So that's very interesting to have those ties. And the other one, the shipping one, just under Saint Gabriel, means that if I do the action of shipping two goods, I can also board a trader. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also for free. So that's also interesting. So you have all kind of ties that you can add. So at first it's very simple because you do an action and that's the other player to play. But at the end of the game, it's possible to do two or sometimes three actions during your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. I'm going to come back to the
Main board.
the sharing and just to show you very quickly. Let me just. Sorry, I'm managing
Yeah.
the module at the same time.
I know how hard this is, so take your time. So with various different windows, it's always a nightmare. Yeah. So take your time. Yeah.
Just want to show it's called a company board. It's just where you track your money. At the top is the money that you have to perform action. Here is the income that you receive at the end of each development phase. Here you track the development that you do at the canal, and you have all your goods at the bottom. When you have new goods, you just store them on your board, and you have some ships that you can build yourself. You can have your own ship to export some goods. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going further than that about that
Yeah.
point. I'm just going back to the main board for the last time, just to talk about uh, the city development component, which is on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the main board. We see the main board, Uli. We're right.
Yeah, we'll see it. We see now the city development
Okay.
module with the mayor priorities, and I
Yeah.
can say, as Claude suggested, hinted on, I was never the mayor because you are the mayor of the city if you are the most popular guy, and I was the most unpopular guy. So this board is something alien for me. Yeah. Back to you,
Yeah.
Claude.
Yeah, just to finish about the overview is the popularity or the city development. I see it as a little game in the game
Mhm.
because when you do some action, for example, you build your industry, you develop the canal, you buy city cards, which are just here below at the bottom. You increase the maybe the quality of life. You increase you invest in the community, so you get some popularity and you record that popularity on the track. Of course, you can do a couple of bonus, but when it's for the time of the election, it happens three times during the game. The player with the highest popularity becomes the mayor. And what is important about that is when you buy those cards that you see, you have three colors. You have
Mhm.
in green quality of life, you have economic development, you have public services in blue. So those cards, of course, are very useful in the game because they help you. When you do some action, they improve some of your action. They give you some benefits, but also you as a mayor decide what uh, what will be the scoring for those cards. So if I have a bunch of yellow cards, I can of course decide that each card is worth 3 points, and if Uli has a couple of blue cards, I will only give 1 points to the blue. So you decide what
Thank
is the
you.
scoring, and and what is interesting about that is you have to decide which card you want to buy because it gives benefit, but also the kind is important because if I think, for example, green will be the mayor, maybe I will say I'm going to take a color of the same card that green has.
Mhm.
So as the mayor, I might be able to score some points because I know it will score green cards, for example. But if I think I can be the mayor, it's better for me to take a different card than the other players. So I will have more points myself. So that's a little game that you play,
Mhm.
just before the election to determine am I able to be the mayor or not. and to have that more points. It's another way to have more points.
Yeah, and well, as you mentioned, Claude, last year it's a game in the game. But last year we actually tried in a way to streamline the Smoky Valley. We removed the city development part completely, and actually it was not good to do so because we now streamlined this a little bit, so it's not complex to play, but it's really an important part of the game, and it's also fun in my opinion. So I'm glad that we moved this
Hmm.
in.
And I think really it balance like you
Yes.
said before, when you ship goods, you can make a lot of points, but you don't get popularity for shipping goods because you don't improve the community. So if you do that, you won't be the mayor for sure, and you won't score that many points for your cards. So that's a way to it balance the games.
Yes.
It's interesting the balance that it brings. Yes.
Yes, I like it a lot. And let me briefly say hi to Marcus, to Purple Shiba. He's late to the party, as it says. Yes, you are late, but hi, Marcus. Good seeing you. And yeah, what I like, Claude, about the game, the Smoky Valley is surely a notch in complexity above the Grand Trunk journey, for sure. And you mentioned earlier, so pretty much at the start of our talk, that you were playing on Mars and from Vital Lacerda, and that you like heavy economic games. And what I like about the Smoky Valley, that it is a little bit like Lisboa, very much focused. So your turn structure is pretty simple actually. It will become a little bit more complex later, but actually when it's your turn, you move your ship, your boat to one of the districts. Then you're just looking at this district. Which actions can I do? Which is useful in this district? With some extras, of course. You can do a free action. We won't mention this at this time. But it's very focused. And then you do your action, and then the next player is there. So hardly any downtime, and it really focused. Like Lisboa, you play one of your cards to three different locations and then score. But unless, and I don't want to diss here Vitaly Lacerda, he's a wonderful designer, we know this, and his games are obviously very popular. But whereas, for example, Lisboa again has lots and lots of different things to consider. So it's not actually just playing a card and scoring in the city. You have the clergy track, you have the decrees, which are open and which you constantly need to check. This game has a very nice focus. So after you've played 2 or 3 turns, or maybe the 1840 development phase, you know what to do. If you will play well, that's a different thing. But you know, turn structure is good, and you normally do not think 30 minutes. What to do now? What to do now? Because this focus, and this is something which I really admire of your work, Claude, because here you have this focus, and in the Grand Trunk journey, you have this focus too by the cards. So I think this
Mhm.
is one of your strengths in design work, that you that you give a good framework and give a good guideline what players can do within a complex environment where you can do where you can get a city card, you can widen the canal. I can buy services and introduce them. I can build an industry. I can upgrade an industry. I can produce goods, and not only in my own industry, as you said, but also in different players' industries. Of course, they will get a bonus for this, but this makes, in my opinion, the Smoky Valley such a
Mhm.
good game. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's yeah, I think you have to adapt your strategy to what the other players are doing. So you have to see what to fill the gap, what is missing, where you can get a few extra points, and that's I think the interaction is interesting without being is there's no attack. You cannot hurt anybody, but you have to take into account what the other players are doing. So that's I like that part too.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a question or a comment from Matt, that brute. He's saying, Claude, if you were influenced by Vital, did Uli yell at you about too much victory points in the Smoky Valley? So because I did this in squaring Circleville, at first there were, I think, in the first games of squaring Circleville that I played, the winner had about 9,500 victory points. It may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's what it was about. So, too many victory points? No, I didn't yell at you, or did I?
No, 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 no. But yeah, there are many ways to score points, but you can do, I don't know, 125 points or something like that. But no, I think that's okay. There are different ways to get your points. There are a percentage of points that you get at the end of the game. So in during the game, you have an idea how things are going, but you don't know until the end who's going to win the game.
Yeah.
So it feels okay for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and because in the Smoky Valley, you win some points during the game, some prestige points during the game, and some at the end. So it's always still open in some possibilities. And Matt is saying if you can't score more than 10,000 victory points, is there even a point in playing? I agree. I agree. But Nick is having a really great question here. If a player decided to concentrate on popularity and being the mayor, how hard is it to wrestle this from them now? So, because there is a mechanic to that other scanner. So how did you handle this?
Mm. When you after the election, when somebody is mayor, all players lose like half of their popularity because we assume that people are not interested anymore in that politics. So it it means that most of the time player will be tight. You know, they will start maybe not exactly at the same point, but very close. So it's possible to come back later and to become the mayor for the second or the third election. So that's
Yeah.
a way to tie the player together.
Yeah, and I think this is really important because otherwise, if one player concentrates early, you will never catch up. So that's a catch up mechanic. And as Claude said, yeah, after the election, you lose interest in politics again. So a player who had a popularity of 10, let's say, and my typical popularity would be two, maybe two at this point, then we would lose half of it, so it's 5-1. And this is still possible to catch up if you concentrate on it. But remember, if you acquire a city card, if you do something over there, it's also an action. It costs something. So you will do less in the city itself. And so everything hopefully balances out nicely there,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to mention, Claude, here?
No, just thank you for the invitation, and I'm very eager to see the game with at least of course the game published, but at least with the module, the Vassal module. I'm working on that to introduce the new images in the module, so that will be great to
Yeah.
see people
Yeah.
trying the game. I
Yeah.
hope we can do that soon.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to the game as well. So it's so much fun. It's a wonderful game. And let me briefly post the BGG URL. And I added some images today for the game, but they should show up quickly. But there isn't at this point that much of information on the game,
Hmm.
but we will add something in the
Yeah.
next couple of days and weeks. So really, thank you for very much, Claude, for giving us insight into the game. It's always great seeing you.
Yeah, you
Um,
too.
you mentioned or you were supposed to come to Essen this year. So what are your current plans regarding the Delta? Um,
It's I would love to go. Really, it's just difficult to. I just feel it's difficult to organize. It. Of
yeah,
course, you can travel, you can go a
yeah,
flight, but you need a PCR test. You have to like the pass to have access, and our pass for the vaccine is not compatible yet with the one in Europe, so I would have to find another way. So I probably won't go this year because it's difficult to predict what will happen
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, if it's not this year, maybe next year. But
Yeah.
I'm sure we will have the opportunity to meet Henning and Errol and the other people
Yeah.
maybe next year. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we will manage, but I can certainly understand if you're not coming over this year. And the most important reason is actually that on the Essen Friday, the Roosters don't have a home game, so we can't see this anyway, so it doesn't make a lot of
Doesn't
sense
worry.
to travel. It's not worth coming over. So, but Claude and I, we will actually talk about the Smoky Valley, not talk about the Smoky Valley, but we will play a couple of turns with the final graphics, hopefully, at Conworks on October 2. That is a Conworks Saturday. And so if you want to see us in action, so if you want to see Claude beating the shit out of me, you can do so on October 2. So we will get back to that. And thanks again, Claude, for being here, for presenting the Smoky Valley. And next week will be a very special episode as well, because I will be my own guest as Ode, so Andreas Odendahl, he will ask me some questions. And knowing him, it will be probably nasty questions. So let's see what will happen next week. And for today, thank you for your time. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask in advance or have a topic suggestion for a future episode, please drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. Until then, of course, bleibt alle gesund and Black Lives Matter. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.